When evil is real and when it isn't. As an infant, we need the download of the cult, of the culture that has given birth to us. The right of a cult, the right of a culture to exist in the ecology in which 99.9% of the possibility field has not coalesced into reality, is its very existence. Right? Existence at a fundamental level is good. And as existence refracts into a possibility field, a probability field, and an actual field, it moves out in all directions. Every existence will be dark and light, good and bad, fast and slow, male and female, up and down. Right? Whatever polarity you can imagine exists in the possibility field. Right? And exists to a lesser extent in the probability field, and to a lesser extent still in the actual field. The actual field is 99% smaller than the possibility field. Right? As an infant, as a child, right, resting on the foundation of eons of permutations, right? The movement towards the human animal, the movement towards the human being, right? And all of those permutations, right? We rest upon that. And to exist, to have life rather than no life, to have a possibility field, a probability field, and an actual field in all of its polarity is good. Evil does not exist in the eyes of a child, of an infant. Right? Evil exists and is bad in the eyes of an adolescent. An adolescent's job is to take a system, whatever it is, right? To take a system, and all cults, all culture exists as a system of government, a system of thinking, a system of dogma, a system of traffic organization, right? All culture exists in a system. And no matter what the system is, it has sharp edges. It has points. And those points are both points of order, points of distinction, and simultaneously points of cruelty. Right? So you take the point of admission to a college. You don't qualify. You don't qualify. You don't qualify. You qualify and have to pay this amount. You don't have that amount, you don't qualify. There is a point of admission and a point of rejection. Right? If you don't qualify because your father is an alcoholic and your mother doesn't speak English, and with a non-English speaking mother and an alcoholic father, you don't have the money to have a tuition, and you have PTSD because of the constant terror of their violence. If you don't qualify to get a fucking education, right? Because layer upon layer of cruelty, layer upon layer of stress has been put into your body and into your family system. That point of rejection is a cruel continuation of the downward spiral, right? Because then you don't make money in a cult that values you based on the money you make, right? There's no Forbes 400 list of the people trying the hardest. There's no Forbes 400 list of the poorest 400 people, right? The value is measured by wealth, but without an education, with PTSD, without a role model on either side, you continue down, and that point is hard, it is cruel, and it is wrong. It is wrong for the faults of your parents to be the reason you cannot take the steps to become more valuable in your cult, in your culture, to be admitted. It is wrong, right? To an adolescent experiencing the points of any system, right? It is an act of heroism, because we can get impaled, quite literally, on any one or all of the points of our cult, all of those distinctions that create order, that divide, that create discipline, can impale, can destroy the people we want to become, can destroy our dreams. I want to build a house, but I don't meet the qualifications for a loan. Right? I don't meet the qualifications for a raise. I don't meet the qualifications for a scholarship. I don't meet the qualifications for this. I'm not tall enough to play basketball. These points, like who the fuck invented basketball? Why didn't they invent midget basketball? Why isn't the shortest people what? It's an unfair system. And the system is not your friend in the adolescent stage of development. It is knocking you down. It is preventing you from getting ahead. It's unfair. It's asymmetrical, and it might kill you. Right? So you are dealing with evil. Right? The hypocrisy and the cruelty of your parents, the hypocrisy and the cruelty of your government, of your people. You are dealing with evil, and it may kill you. And your job is to survive the evil, to outsmart those pointed lines that are gunning for you. Right? Right? You're in massive amounts of pain in a traumatically illiterate cult. And the role model has been set to numb the pain with alcohol because we're too stupid as a cult to talk about our pain and deal with it. That cult is out to get you like a machine gun. And every lit up liquor store at 1 a.m. is a bullet with your name on it. Right? Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, destroy your life. Right? Perfectly fine to go buy a bottle of vodka at 1 a.m. Fuck you. Right? But where do you go at 1 a.m. to find a human being to listen to pain? No. We don't believe in intelligence in this cult. We sell our people down the river for a few dollars, day after day after day. And you've got to survive, right? All those guns pointing at you. And it is not easy. It is not easy in a psychologically illiterate cult that causes massive amounts of pain and betrayal and then shames you for expressing the pain. It is not easy, right? Now, your job as an adolescent in the face of real evil is to dodge the bullets. All these bullets have got to be dodged, right? Every single day, right? They're all gunning for you. You've got to dodge the bullets. you've also got to analyze and detect the points, right? These are bloody, hostile, cruel, sociopathic barbs, right? And you've got to see what they're made of and see how they're built and see what's wrong with them. And you're going to have to see if you can blunt the edges on some of them. You're going to have to see if you can design a better system, right? Now, one of the interesting things, in this dynamic, right? If you've got a simple system of cruel lines, it's a bumpy ride. They're sharp. The more complexity and symmetry you add to the system, right, the less bumpy the ride, the less painful it is, right? When you divide the pain up rather than just one little thing, if you have 1,000 pins pricking you per square inch rather than one nail or one pin, it's easier because the pressure, it's dissolved into more points, right? So when you create a more complex and symmetrical system, or when you dull the edge of the point, when you have a softer edge, when you have give and take, right? It's not 3 strikes and you're out. When you've got a little bit of empathy and awareness, like I know what's going on, you're making progress there, so I'm not going to push in right at this point, right? I'm not going to live the dogma of the law, right? Pretending that there's anything noble in that. Instead, we're going to play with it a little bit more, right? We're going to dull the edges of some of these points, going to soften it, we're going to make it more complex, right? Now, as you move towards the symmetry, the grace of the sphere, right? The most graceful, the most balanced, the most symmetrical shape that there is, right? You move towards the ideal, right? You're distributing the pain evenly across all of reality. And at that point, it becomes medicinal. A little bit of pain is medicinal. A lot of pain is traumatic, toxic, and a downward spiral. In other words, the more you can diffuse the pain of a cult to all of its members equally, the more that cult will respond and grow with it. The more you scapegoat individuals in the cult, the individual will crush and the cult will remain sick, right? Every cult is sick, and it is the pain of the cult protocol that alerts members of the cult of its disease. So if you give it all to one kid or one person and it kills them, it's wasted, right? You need to give the pain, give the disease, give the asymmetry to as many people as possible, right? And particularly if you give it to the people in power, where they feel the pain daily, right? They don't get separate elevators. They don't get private chauffeurs. They drive on the shitty streets of the cult, right? Well, then they're motivated to use money not for corruption, but to fix the fucking streets, right? You've got to share the load equally. No cult is perfect. There is pain in every cult. But when it is divided equally, right? And when it's not all concentrated in one area, like we're going to just sell out the homeless, or we're going to sell out, this whole group of people, this minority, and become racist. When it's distributed, right? We understand we have some problems in money, we have some problems in school. And we all share that issue and respond. It is a prick, but that prick is medicinal. It leads to change. Right? Your job is to fight resident evil. Right? as the asymmetrical, imbalanced, cruel, and unfair practices of your parents, of your church, of your government, of your neighbor, of your lover, of your business partner. It's to fight evil. Right? Toxic, insane, destructive applications of energy that make things worse for everyone. You must prevail against evil, right? You must win. And what winning means, right, is you take a dysfunctional system, right, where one person on the circle, one person in the circle is being scapegoated and blamed for all the cult's problems. This is highly destructive in any cult. It is highly destructive to scapegoat any one person. Now, let's go into this a little bit, right? So, for example, one of the things that we do is if a 15-year-old commits a certain amount of vandalism, a certain amount of rape, a certain amount of violence, we try the 15-year-old as if they were an adult in court, and we give them a life sentence or sentence them to death. And we feel like, wow, this is great, isn't it? We finally caught the source of all our problems, right? If we could just electrocute all of the dysfunctional 15-year-olds in this country, the problems would be solved. Now, this is not the first time that this is approach has been taken. One of the first things that Adolf Hitler did in Germany was he said, look, there's all these people in insane asylums. Right? They're not doing much good, right? They're costing tax money and all that. There's people in insane asylums. We've got to get rid of those. There's also disabled people. They've got a deformed arm. They've got one leg. How's that going to help Germany, right? Got to get rid of these people, right? There's mentally disturbed people, right? People hearing voices, this, that, and the other. There's traumatized, terrified, regressed people, right? They just sit in this shape, in a room all day, terrified. How's that going to help Germany, right? So Hitler came up with a wonderful plan, and his plan was to unburden Germany from the crime, right? These people were creating a burden of their great country. And so he was going to eliminate them all, right? So Hitler it wasn't about Jews or race, whatever. It was about the unwanted people that were considered the problem people. So he rounded them all up and killed them. Mass execution of disabled, of mentally ill, traumatized people of all races and ages and sexes, right? He wasn't biased. He was getting rid of the problem. But of course, Germany didn't get better overnight, so it was just that was the partial solution, right? To just exterminate. And so, right, we had to go further. We needed a final solution, right? To get rid of all the unwanted people. So pretending that this group, whatever, is the source of all our problems, it's been tried 1,000 times. The term scapegoating comes from a time where they got very creative. They didn't want to get rid of their people, right? Good move, right? So they would decide that the faults that they were experiencing as a tribe, God was obviously angry, and it was a goat's problem. Who was going to be the scapegoat, right? They were going to pick a goat, and they're going to blame the goat, right? Just stone that goat, kill him, right? send the goat out of the village. And then all their problems, the crops would be restored. But of course, that didn't happen, so they had to get another goat, right? Well, and they would just keep killing goats, right? Slowly diminishing their herd, their prosperity, until the weather changed, right? And then they would pretend that it was all their goat killing that had changed the weather, that had appeased a vengeful God. Superstition, cruelty, stupidity. Well, we do that today when we blame a 15-year-old for the crimes of an entire culture. So one of the interesting things that has been correlated in juveniles put to death in the United States is that more than 80% of them have been sexually molested by an older man. Sexually molested by an older man as children. Now, we think of the 5% of pedophilic Catholic priests and the entire organization by the Pope, the whole division of the Vatican, set up to hide and suppress the truth and move pedophiles from one arena to another. But you notice it isn't the Pope being put to death for the crimes and rapes of this 15-year-old boy. Right? You notice there's an odd asymmetry going on here. The Pope is not put to death. The 15-year-old boy is. It's kind of the same asymmetry that, when the crops were failing and this goat was being selected to be sent out into the desert, nobody blamed God, right? Remember the chosen people? The chosen people were led around in the desert for 40 years. God didn't want to lead them into a rainforest? With 40 years of walking, you didn't have to wander in circle in the desert. You could have gone to the rainforest. Well, then the crops wouldn't have failed. Right? You think God might be a little fucked up? You want to be the chosen? Like, how would you like if I point at you and say, the chosen one? You, right you watching, you're the chosen one. Is that a good thing? Well, it depends. Do you want to wander around in a desert? Right? Fearing me for the rest of your life? Well, it may not be such a good thing. In other words, God's pretty fucked up to lead people in a desert rather than lead them to water, right? So why is the goat being punished? You see the problem? When the Pope organizes a special division to hide the fact that 5% of its priests are pedophilic and rotate the pedophiles from one parish to another as soon as things heat up, right? There's too many stories about that priest. Okay, let's move him over here because nobody knows he's a pedophile over here, so he can molest more children over here, right? Because we don't want to damage the reputation of the Catholic Church. Well, so all of the, right, the cardinal that was made cardinal, right, for doing a good job covering up pedophilic priests, he's not being electrocuted, is he? Why not? If the hate and rage, if the self-loathing and hatred of children being molested by the by the representatives of God, if that kind of hatred and rage and craziness creates lots of violence, and the Catholic priest is responsible for that violence, the Catholic, right? If the Pope chose the system that picked the priests, didn't screen for pedophiles, then covered up the issue, right? And then asked the kids to go crazy, as in many, many different ways, and then told them they were liars and turned their parents against them. And that 15-year-old hates themselves and hates the world so much they want to go out and express that hatred with violence, well then, why aren't those priests, why isn't that cardinal, why isn't that pope given the electric chair? Seems like, if you push the button that turns 80% of boys into juvenile major offenders, why shouldn't you be responsible for the crimes of those offenders, right? Like if you're a parent and you give a 15-year-old reckless boy on crack a car to drive, and he goes out and kills 5 people that evening, is that the kid's fault or is that the father's fault? Right? Right. Whenever you scapegoat one party, it's sick, right? Nothing changes in the system. That's the whole point. Keep the system that's sick in place, but kill one of its members, right? It's called scapegoating because nothing changes. You just pretend it does. And you're one person short in your cult, right? You could learn from that kid a ton of stuff if you took the attitude that they actually know something. But that would lead to a lot of sticky conversations, so let's just kill them. Well, who's going along with that? You are. You're not protesting the death penalty for 15-year-olds. So you're complicit, so why don't you get put to death? What about your neighbor? Put them to death too, they're complicit. Oh, no, maybe the death penalty isn't such a good idea. Right? So as soon as you start pulling back the lie of the scapegoat and start distributing the responsibility, meaning there's a lot of people that were able to respond but didn't, that are part of the phenomena, not all of it. Of course the 15-year-old boy is part of the phenomena, right? But let's give credit where credit is due, right? Let's put the Pope on trial for covering up the sexual abuse that led to the 15-year-old boy being sodomized by a priest. Let's put the Catholic Church as a whole on trial for brainwashing people into believing that they're evil if they're homosexual. Right? Because if you brainwashed kids into believing that if a priest sodomized you, you were a saint, that's one brainwashing you could do, as much as saying you're going to go to hell, right? Why not? If you have the good fortune of jerking off a priest, you're closer to God. Well, if everyone believes that, and a priest offers you the chance to jerk him off, you don't feel upset about it. It's a good omen, right? But if the very church that asks you to jerk them off goes around saying that you will go to hell forever for jerking them off, now you've got a problem, right? So the entire Catholic dogma, the entire Christian dogma, let's not put Catholic. So now we've got all the Christians, we've got 80% of the population pushing that bullshit onto that 15-year-old. You're a sodomite, you're a worthless person, you're a faggot, you're this, if you touch another man's penis. Okay, got that covered, right? It's a setup, if ever there was one. Now, go do what the priest says. Right? They're a representative of God, don't talk back. Okay, more of a setup, right? Now all the priest has to do for the setup to be complete is say, touch my dick. Right? Now, we need other complications, right? We have other people, like the parents that don't believe their kid. Watch the video, Mea Culpa Maxima, right? The parents that side with the fucking church over their own kids. Right? Give them all the electric chair, right? The Pope, the Vatican, all the Christians, give them all the electric chair, right? Then there's the government that doesn't want the fucking political hassle of going up against a church that will tell its members not to vote, right? So the church wields political power and will not encourage people to vote because it's corrupt, right? The Pope says any officials, right, any officials talking about sexual abuse of priests, we don't like them. So we're in a democracy. Well, who chose a democracy? We didn't choose a meritocracy. We didn't ask for, if we could have chosen a meritocracy. Now, how would that work? The smartest, most talented people in any area would evaluate the talent of possible candidates running for office, and the ones they agreed actually knew what they were doing would get elected, and the fucking public that doesn't have a clue would not get a vote. Right? You think you're an economic major and know what's good for this and that, the other? Right? You haven't read a single economic book, but you're voting for a policy that sounds good to a moron. Well, you chose a democracy, so let's put all the people that chose a democracy on trial, right? They're part of the problem. And then let's put all the ignorance and stupidity of the people on all the stupid people that voted for someone who repeatedly lied. You look at their track record, they've lied every time. But you believe them. Right? Well, put them on trial. Right? Put them on trial for sheer stupidity. Right? And then the Catholic Church or other churches bullying politicians to say, we're not going to recommend you and endorse you if you bring up the sexual predations of priests. And the politician says, fine, what's a few kids? What's a few kids when it comes to me getting elected? Fuck the kids, literally. I want the power, right? So put the politician who lied to the public on trial. Put them in the electric chair and say, how does it feel? Right? You sold this kid out to get elected. How does it feel to be electrocuted for his crimes? Right? Well, then there's the education system, right? What about going through high school and getting an hour of trauma literacy a day? Now, in a highly traumatized culture with severe childhood abuse, with severe corruption, knowing how to deal with trauma and being traumatized and victimized is a pretty useful skill to have. But who are the people that decided that wasn't going to be a part of the curriculum? Let's put them on trial too. Fucking morons. You think algebra is more important than traumatic literacy? You dumb fucks. Get the fuck down to the court, right? Have a little taste of that electric chair, right? So, and then what about all the people that wanted to be positive, right? You bring up these topics at dinner. Let's not talk about politics, please. Yes, kids are being sodomized. Yes, our politicians are stupid and corrupt. Yes, our priests are doing that. But let's just pretend that we're living in a fantasy world where things make sense and make some polite conversation. No, but how about we deal with the truth? No, you're not invited to the dinner table. So all those people that banish intelligent thought from dinner tables because they might be a little bit stimulating, put them on the electric chair, right? That's how we stay dumb as an entire cult, right? So the entire cult is complicit. And what about the parents? What about the parents of that kid? How do you manage to be so out of touch with your kid that he comes home sodomized by a priest and you know nothing about it? And he doesn't want to tell you. How do you manage that? You manage that by violating his trust and shaming him so many times and showing how stupid you are that he has a very good chance of understanding that things will not get better if he talks to you. That's how you manage it. Well, put the parents on trial. And how do you manage to have so many stupid, incompetent parents after thousands of years of raising kids? I mean, how do you manage that? Zero parental literacy? Not a single psychological test required before giving birth? No science-based education on the art of raising children? No. In the areas that count, child rearing, health, trauma literacy, healing and grieving, in the areas that count, this cult is willfully ignorant, and criminally negligent in every possible way. But let's kill a 15-year-old instead, right? Cowardice, stupidity, evil, right? Shameful corruption, shameful betrayal, sociopathic behavior at the fucking core of one face of the cult after another. Right? It's my duty to inform this confused, terrified, traumatized 15-year-old, right, that is going to be committed to death for his crimes. Not us. Not us. We're fucking morons. We're fucking cowards every step of the way. Oh, great. Right? Another 15-year-old dead. That'll solve all our problems, won't it? Won't it? No, they seem to be getting worse. There's more school shootings. Well, what do you think you deserve, you fucking morons? Right? If you're this clueless, what do you think you deserve? Right? Well, I don't like the sound of that. Right? Get rid of that person. Silence. Silence. Shut him down. Cancel him. Right? Okay, let's just continue seeing how it plays out. It doesn't work. It doesn't work to scapegoat any one person. The cult loves to do it. These evil parents. Yeah, but how did they become so evil in such an intelligent cult? Right? Does the cult help people diagnose intergenerational abuse? No. Does the cult welcome people when they are confused and have big problems they don't know how to deal with? No. We tell them to shut up. Does the cult reward you for asking for help? If you go to anyone, let's say you realize, right, heaven, I mean, what a big surprise. Let's say you're smart enough to realize you're not a very good parent. Right? It doesn't take that much intelligence to get that, nor does it take any intelligence to realize why that is. That is not personal. You know, it actually takes a little education, little training to get good at anything, let alone parenting. Right? But our cult is too dumb to do that, right? So you realize, oh, I'm not a very good parent. So what do? Well, is there a I'm not a very good parent line to call? Hello, I'm not a very good parent. What's the problem? I don't know, because I'm not a very good parent. Okay, well, goodbye. Right? If you're going to kill yourself, call us. Right? We'll teach you not to. But how to be a good parent? Right? And then you learn from morons that have also not done a very good job being a good parent. Right? It's not an easy solution. So scapegoating is not the answer. A redesign of the entire cult is the only way that these things shift. Right? So what does that mean? It means we don't brainwash children saying they will go to hell because another man sexually abused them. We tell them that's bullshit and tell the church to go fuck itself, which it's already doing. Right? There's plenty of gay stuff amongst the priests, right? So we ask, we ask our churches to stand up for some like, we're not going to be members of this level of stupidity. If you want to earn the right to be a figurehead of God, let's see some intelligent, empathic behavior on your part. Don't just sit there in your fucking robes, right? Acting like reptiles. Do something human. Care for these kids. Figure out, you invest some of your fucking billions figuring out how to take a shame-based, terrorized, angry young man who's been fucked by priests and turn him into a decent human being. Or would you rather invest in Marlboro because you want 7% return right? For your big robes and your shiny church and all that, right? You be a decent human being and earn the title, representative of God. Earn it, right? Or we're not giving you a penny. That's all it takes. Oh, we didn't know, You've been listening to our bullshit for thousands of years, so of course we'll clean up our act if you're not going to pay us anymore. Oh, but gosh, So it's up to people, right? So we have a shitty, fucked up cult, right? Because this is the best we all can do. You didn't solve it. I didn't solve it, right? I'm not better than you. I haven't figured this out, or I'd have done it, right? As long as there's a shitty, fucked up cult, you can know that I didn't figure it out. And you can know you didn't either, right? And you can know the cult didn't, right? But blaming it all on a 15-year-old and putting them to death is a little bit extreme, right? It's just the kind of dumb stuff we do. So this is the stage of evil. It's pure, unrequited, sickening, disgusting evil, and it's all around us, right? It's in every country. It's in every cult, right? It's the wrong choice being made. It's sin upon sin upon sin. People want to look good rather than do good. It's evil. Okay. The adolescent stage of this is to fight evil, right? Now that's what this is, right? It's stop picking on the 15-year-old and take your fair share of the crime. That's what this is, right? So this is my outraged, angry adolescent standing up to abuse, standing up to power, standing up to stupidity and cruelty that's all around me, right? Evil is real, and it must be fought at this stage, right? So we pick our battle. We fight, and our job is to win. Our job is to get a little bit of progress without destroying ourselves. Now, that's an important part of the equation, right? If we die and the pedophilic priests remain, we haven't really been that useful. You have to risk death, but to be useful, you got to win. You've got to win, right? You've got to challenge the cruelty, the ignorance that is the enemy of all of us, right? This disease we're talking about is the enemy of the planet. It is the enemy of humanity. It is the enemy of men. It is the enemy of women. It is the enemy of the church. Everyone loses when there's this kind of cruelty, and it must be fought, right? And it is an endless battle, right? Because there's no perfection possible. It is a continuum of evolution and growth. So our job basically is we inherit the cult where we find it, let's say here, and we fight a battle in our adolescent stage of development, and we get it up to here. We get our life up to around here. Let's say we do that. Well, then we're tired. We can't spend our entire life protesting, right? If we die in the attempt, it's not useful to anything. So we reach a point then of compromise. Okay. You fight with your dad. And you realize, right, he's a chauvinist pig, right? You get him to realize that racism isn't a good idea, Now he only makes 5% racist jokes rather than 90% racist jokes, right? So that's as good as he's going to get before he's dead, right? So, right, I help move the needle from 90% racist jokes down to 5% racist jokes. And that's I could devote my entire, but that's the way it is, right? Now, at a certain point, we move from the adolescent stage into the adult stage. This is where we're no longer protesting. This is where we make peace with the imperfections, the cruelty, the stupidity that is part of life. Right? There is never a stopping point in evolution. For the last 30 billion years, life has been getting more interesting, more complex, bigger, longer, right? All kinds of things have been happening, some of them terrible, some of them amazing. Right? There's no stopping. Life is an endless continuum. So we move the needle up, and then we settle in. We become the new status quo. We become the new status quo. Now there is no evil again. Right? So there was no evil. Then there was pure, just unadulterated, just raw evil. We overcome the battle. We triumph. And we settle into something that is less evil than when we started. Right? We run a campaign. We're less evil than was there before. But we understand, right? Our uncle is embezzling over here. Dad isn't paying his taxes. We could turn them all in and have family strife, but what would that do? Then, the 15-year-old seems to be dicking around with a 10-year-old girl, whatever. That's, what are you supposed to do? We don't teach sexual education. We're out of sync in this, But I can't solve all of the problems in the world, right? So I've made some progress, and now I'm settling into my comfort zone, the new status quo. My job now is to hold the boundary and maintain the boundary of the norms of my cult and pass them down to the next generation, who will be horrified when they discover how corrupt we are, as they should be, right? Because that's how progress happens. So there is no evil, and that's good. There is evil, and it's evil and must be fought, and the fighting is good. And the fighting only happens because the evil is there, which means at a deeper level, the evil is good, right? Now, some people are attracted by the idea of sitting on the right hand of God, listening to harp music for eternity, watching the same group of angels sit there and play harps for eternity, and that's going to do it for them, right? I mean, I don't know why they're not sitting at the opera, right? The angels don't look much nicer than the good opera actors or ballet, so why aren't they could be getting a preview of heaven there. Just go to the ballet and sit there all day long if that's really their thing, or join the ballet for that matter, right? There is a little bit of a schizophrenic thing around that. The reality is life is always iterating and getting better, more interesting, improving, right? And there is a time where each of us need to fight against the cruelty of the status quo, and there is a time we must make peace with what we have accomplished and what we have not accomplished, right? And understand the goodness of what is again, so that we can give it to our children, right? It is good again, so that we can give it to our children. On the other side of fighting evil as much as we can, it is important to return to the understanding that evil is necessary so that we can fight it, that fighting is necessary so that we can, 1, become an adult and grow up, 2, help evolution evolve, and have the motivation to help evolution evolve. Believe me, if you have been crucified repeatedly by corrupt, powerful individuals, you will have a deep drive to fight for justice. that will actually lead to more justice. If everyone in power gives you the first chance, whatever you want, why would you ever fight that? Why would life move forward? Why would you grow? Right? So the very presence of evil gives birth to the hero and heroine. The presence of the hero and heroine gives birth to evolution and growth and transcendence and adulthood. And the presence of adulthood is necessary for life and is good. Right? So you reach the place of wisdom where you understand you are part of a system that is not perfect, that you are neither perfectly good nor perfectly evil, that a certain amount of evil is necessary to stimulate growth and progress, and that growth and rebellion helps people become adults, and that all of that is part of life and is good, right? If you are a child and have not seen the evil in your family and your world, you need to grow up into an adolescent and see the barbaric cruelty that is all around you. If you see the barbaric cruelty that is all around you and feel helpless and overwhelmed, you need to learn the art of fighting, right? Learn martial arts, learn political advocacy, right? Write letters to the editor, right? Campaign. You need to learn the art of war as an adolescent in response to the evil you perceive. You must do your part and you must win, right? Once you have won, you will be given a certain amount of rank and will become a leader in your cult, in your group, in your establishment. And once you do, you are now the new source of resident evil, right? Because your new platform is also not perfect. It's better than what was, but it's not as good as what will be. So you will pass on the imperfect status quo. And your job is to be conquered by a worthy adolescent who is able and willing to become an adult and replace you. That's your job. Then you're no longer in that leadership position, right? You can go to your final and most important job as an elder, which is loving the infants unconditionally, grieving the horrors that they deal with, right? Celebrating the adolescents in their preparation for war, grieving their losses, right? Advising the power-hungry assholes that are always part of the bureaucracy to be a little bit less of an asshole, right? And enjoying the profound presence and beauty of life, right? Life is good. To exist is good relative to the alternatives, right? And life has been getting bigger. Life has been getting longer. Life has become more complex. Life has given birth to so much life. Every single moment of its existence, it has gotten more. And that is good. Your job as an elder is to celebrate the presence, the awareness, the great opportunity to be in the presence of all that is. God got us all that is in all of its life. And to understand that in the largest cycle of things, the dark colors bring contrast and help the lights to shimmer all the more brightly. That the injustices of the world provide fertile ground for the beauty of the hero and heroines, which are all part of life's great journey.